Happy Friday, everyone. My name is Ernie Humphrey. I'm the Vice President of Educational Programs for Performative, the online community for corporate finance, accounting, treasury, and related professionals. First, I'd like to welcome everyone to the webinar, Successful Onboarding and Career Advancement Skills. Successful onboarding in a new job and subsequent career advancement don't just happen. The better you understand how to avoid the pitfalls in getting off on the right foot during the beginning of your tenure in a new company, the better position you will be in to create and optimize the opportunities this new job may offer you in advancing your career. This webinar will focus on offering attendees practical advice in adding value to your new employer right at the gate and building relationships with your work colleagues, whether you are new or a longtime employee, that will impact your career success. A quick note on today's agenda: we will hear a presentation from our featured speaker, Moshe Kravitz, and then we will move into our interactive Q&A session where we will spend the remainder of our hour. We would like this to be an interactive experience for you, so if you have any questions at any time during the webinar, please go to the questions area in your GoToWebinar control panel and send us your questions. We can't promise to get to all of them, but we will do our best and we'll follow up afterwards on any questions that we did not get to. I'd like to share a few more logistical notes about today's webinar. The link to today's presentation is already up on performative.com, and we will get the webinar video posted more than likely on Monday morning. Those of you who would like CPE credits through NASBA, you need to answer the polling questions we'll ask during the event and should have pre-registered for CPE credits on the way in during the registration process. For any questions on CPE credits, please contact Chris Brower at cbrower@performative.com. We'll have Chris's contact information up again at the end of the webinar should you not have had time to get that down. Another note, you'll be asked to take a short survey today regarding the webinar. We greatly appreciate your feedback regarding our event today, as we always strive to improve the ROI we offer our attendees for their valuable time. A quick word about Performative. Performative is the largest and fastest growing online community and resource for senior level corporate finance, accounting, treasury, and related leaders. Performative connects corporate finance leaders to provide instant advice and insights on the tough financial and strategic challenges they face each and every day. Let's get started by introducing today's featured speaker, Moshe Kravitz, Certified 5 O'Clock Club Career Coach. Moshe guides his clients in selecting appropriate targets and in marketing themselves effectively. His experience includes many years as an educator, actuarial positions at CNA Insurance and Buck Consultants, and his position as Director of Financial Planning and Analysis in a major telecommunications energy company. Everywhere he works, Moshe demonstrates a passion for helping others to improve their skills and efficiency. With this passion, he helps job seekers to hone their job search skills, enabling them to land more offers more quickly and at higher salaries. With that, it is my distinct pleasure to hand the floor over to our featured speaker, Moshe Kravitz. Moshe, take it away.
Okay, thank you, Ernie. Good morning and welcome, everybody. Get control here. Okay. As an introduction to our topic today of successful onboarding and career advancement, I'd like to tell you the story of Nancy. It was the first semester of nursing school, and the professor handed out the first quiz for the semester. Nancy, bright and diligent student as she was, breezed through the first 9 questions, but she was stumped by question 10. Question 10 said, please write down the name, the first name and last name, of the lady who cleans up this nursing school facility. Nancy had seen the lady a number of times, but had no clue as to her name. One of the other students raised her hand and asked the professor, is this question for real? Does it count? The professor, a wise and insightful educator, smiled and said, indeed, this question counts. And the lesson for you to learn from this question is that in the course of your career, you will meet and work with many people. Keep in mind that all of them deserve your attention and respect. This lesson made a deep impression on Nancy and the other nursing students, and I hope it will make a deep impression on us that will foster our successful onboarding and our career advancement. With that point in mind, let's ask now. The person just got his offer. He just accepted his offer. He's really excited. What should be the first thing to do after accepting the offer? you could jot down one or two things. First thing that you would do upon accepting an offer. A hint is that at the top of the slide, we see that this section of the presentation is called Maintain Your Network. What can we do at this point to maintain our network? Of course, be in touch with our networking contacts. Every individual who's reached this point of a new job offer probably interacted with some networking contacts. Few, many. This is the point not to abandon them, not to forget about them, but to be in touch with them for several reasons. And if this were interactive and live and in person, I'd ask people to raise their hands and offer why. Why be in touch with networking contacts? Here we'll offer two reasons. If you have any more, perhaps you could share them at the Q&A. One reason is, out of decency, show appreciation. Show thanks for the effort, the time, the thought, the care which these networking contacts had and shared with you. And one of the best ways to show your gratitude, show your appreciation, is to let them know how they helped, how their input was instrumental to getting you to this position. Let them share in enjoying the fruits of the success of your endeavors. Another reason to share and contact your networking contacts, unfortunately, is that we need these days to keep this network, which we worked to build. We need to keep it going, because the statistics show us that the average job holder holds his job for 4 years. Granted, that's an average, meaning that some 2 years, some 8 years, or 12 years. But for most people, it's unfortunately not a question of if he will be looking for another job, rather when. So we've spent effort building a network. It takes less effort to maintain that network rather than if or when we need it to go build it again from scratch. So at this point, we plan what steps we could do both to maintain and to grow the network. Here are a few ideas. Now, maintaining the network means to be in touch with our networking contacts on some kind of a regular basis. Every 4 weeks, every 8 weeks, every quarter, but being in touch with them, but not in a way which is annoying to them, rather in a way which is friendly, which is perceived as adding value. We don't want to be a nuisance. So to accomplish that, you could share some information that you came across, which you know might interest them, either speaking to their professional interests or their personal interests. Perhaps engage them with some challenge which is confronting you in your business. If it's a person who would be interested to work together, interested to address that challenge with you, or perhaps share a solution. If it's not proprietary, share a solution that he may be interested in. And a plain, sincere greeting always goes a long way. It's always well received, especially there are seasonal occasions to offer a greeting. And what more natural point in time to be in touch as a time in which the person is accepting a new position. If nothing else, you'd like to update to networking people with your contact information. And while doing so, you could update them also to the fact that you will now be meeting and working with many, many new people. Your experience will expand, and you'll have a broader range of assets, human capital, expertise to be able to offer to your networking contacts. And the challenges that you face also will expand, and there'll be other areas in which you might be turning for help to your networking contacts. So these are some ways to help maintain the network and realize that networking is not a binary function. Do you know of an opening for me, yes or no? Rather, it's a continuous function. these are some ways to make it a continuous function. Now, how to grow the network, as we mentioned. Lots of new contacts coming your way. Lots of new challenges and opportunities and needs for networking. So you can't do continuous function networking with everybody you meet. There's not enough time and energy. So be selective and choose those people with whom you feel that you share mutual understanding, perhaps mutual needs and mutual goals, and with those selected individuals, try to begin to build out and increase your network.
Okay, great. Thanks, Moshe. At this point, we're going to go ahead and launch our first polling question. I hope it fits well with the content. So as Moshe mentioned, given today's job market and career paths, it's very, very important that you actually grow and maintain that network. So the first polling question is going to be around the audience of your current tenure at your current job. So we can kind of, bring this point home. We'll share the results with you if you don't get a chance to today. We will be sharing those with you on performative.com. Just a quick note, for those of you in the audience who are after CPE credits, you'll have to answer each and every polling question. That being said, we would very much appreciate everyone's consideration in answering the polling question, as we will share the results, as I mentioned, on performative.com. And we may just get a chance to have Moshe comment on these later on in the presentation. So we'll go ahead and give this probably another 30 seconds or so we don't interrupt the flow of the presentation too much. As far as the career paths are concerned, I think it was probably just, maybe even 10 years ago or so, it seemed like people would stay, in their jobs 10 years or longer. And I think the most recent statistic that I've seen, maybe Moshe, you can update me on this, I think the average number of different jobs that people have in their career is 8, and it's probably on the rise. So having these skills that Moshe is driving us through today are very, very important to making sure that you keep your career moving forward. As he said, it's not a matter of if you're going to transition, it's just going to be a matter of when. So I'll just go ahead and give this a couple more seconds, and then I'm going to go ahead and close that poll, and I'll turn it back over to Moshe. Moshe, just left click, and you can take control back.
Okay. Ernie, just to add to your comment, you mentioned about 8 different positions. It's not only different jobs, but it's even different industries. And it could be the next industry that the person may find himself working in, or the one after that, does not even yet exist today. That's how fast things are changing. Okay. The section we just completed, before the polling section, was called Maintain Your Network. Now we're up to the section which is called Starting Out on the Right Foot. So the first thing I'd like to say about starting out on the right foot is don't start out on the wrong foot. Don't do too much, too big, too fast in the wrong place. Anybody coming into a new organization, in fact, I have a client who's now joining full-time an organization where he's been a consultant for many, many years. Even in his case, this is true to an extent, not as much. Even then, you're coming in now, you're moving in, and things are done in a way that maybe you're not used to. Till you learn the culture, till you learn who's who and what's what, don't do anything too big, too earth-shaking, too revolutionary. I know a person who was hired as a principal of a very well-run school. This individual is a very, very capable administrator, very, very sensitive and understanding in dealing with people, and he set about his job with great sincerity and began fixing, improving this thing over here and that thing over there, and he fixed a little too much, too fast, and did not make it through the first year. He fixed some things that the certain people were not in favor of, so don't start out on the wrong foot. Be careful what you're fixing. That being said, however, do attempt to make some initial accomplishments right off, giving you the right type of a profile, make the right impression. One consultant whom I heard on a webinar was offering this learning that he had learned in his first job when he was hired as a consultant. He learned from the boss 3 things. it applies to being a consultant, but it applies, I think, to anybody in a company. You have internal clients, external clients. Number one, deliver professional quality work. Number two, exceed expectations. Deliver more than they expected of you, more than they asked and more than they expected. And number three, have fun while you're at it. Now, have fun doesn't have to be only bring balloons to work. It could be in the course of the work itself. My kids are amused when they say, you sit all day and look at numbers and you have fun? I say, yeah, yeah. Or my colleagues over here, when I practice giving a webinar before going live on a Friday like today, they see I'm animated and involved, and I enjoy giving it over. I have a lawyer friend who told me that his fun in his work is when he can save a client $20,000, $30,000 on a closing. That's his enjoyment. So professional quality work, give more than expected, and have fun. That's the way to start out. And make some initial impact with accomplishments, but implement a system where there wasn't one. Don't remove an existing system and replace it in your first 2, 3, 6 months until you learn the culture, learn who's who and what's what. Now, a great thing to have is a patron in your company who will promote you and your accomplishments to others. I wish I could tell you the formula, how to acquire such a patron. I don't know if there is such a formula. It's a great thing. Perhaps, short of being totally passive and just hoping, perhaps some things that a person could do to increase the chance is to be involved himself in doing good things, be involved himself with good people, and even modeling this type of behavior towards others. Be a patron to extend towards others. Maybe that'll help you get a little closer to winning a patron of your own. And a patron doesn't have to be necessarily a mentor, doesn't necessarily have to be somebody even whom you interact with very much, but someone who's aware of and appreciates your value, your contribution to the company, and on his own takes motivation, takes initiative to go and share that with the people in the company who should know about it. Now, short of having a patron, a person could be his own patron. He could promote himself, but do so in a non-obnoxious way. Yeah? For example, you step into the elevator and the CFO or the chairman of the board is going up at the same time. Jack, how are you? Oh, great. Finally, we could turn our full attention now to our daily tasks. We just finished, weeks of 12 and 16-hour days getting that system implemented. Oh, you were among those who got it implemented? Great. It was so great, and I didn't realize you were involved in it. So, in a neutral or positive but non-aggravating way, be savvy and promote your own accomplishments when the occasion arises, or create the occasion to do so. Okay, those are accomplishments. Next, you want to meet everyone. You want to meet everyone. Everyone. Like the professor taught us, right? Everybody deserves your attention, respect. Okay, maybe some people deserve more attention than others. Anyway, when a new hire is brought around to meet everybody here, I endeavor to speak to the person a bit in the few minutes that I have till he moves on to the next desk. I try to determine what are the responsibilities this person has, what challenges may he be facing, regardless if this person is a superior, a subordinate, a peer, doesn't matter. What's his role? What's he busy with? What are his challenges? In order to know, how could I possibly help him with the information, skills, connections that I have, access to data perhaps? How could I help this person? So, as a new hire is being brought around and meeting people, the new hire could do the same thing with each person whom he meets. What is this person's role? What are his challenges? How could I, in this new role that I'm assuming, how can I help this person? So that's what we mean when we say to meet everyone. We'll come back to this next. Engage. This certainly doesn't mean with everyone, but pick one, two, maybe three strategic areas in your company where you could engage, be involved, and that will help you to deliver more value to the company. A few examples. I know a lady who was hired, brought into a company to be director of product development. The better part of the first 30 days she spent sitting side by side with the customer service representatives on the front line, so to speak, learning the business firsthand. What are the products? How do they work? What are the issues? What are the customers like? Learning firsthand. And that helped her very, very much to do a better job in product development. She ultimately became an executive in her company. Next example, the CFO, who also engaged, and he walked the plant. He spoke with the guys at the machines, producing the stuff. In the course of that, he learned that his company inventoried 116 different size and shape screws to produce the stuff that they made. So his next stop from the floor of the plant was engineering, to ask the guys, could they perhaps redesign and minimize the number of screws that they had to stock, which happened. They got it down, 10 or 20 number of screws. Imagine the impact on his inventory, on his purchasing, on his working capital, significant impact. Another example, a CFO who goes along with his sales reps on a sales call. And by looking at the financials of the client company, within a few minutes, he's able to identify revenue drivers, cost drivers, and show how this software product will drive profitability for this potential client. So engage in the strategic areas, and that'll help you to drive value.
Okay, great. Thanks, Moshe. At this point, we'll go ahead and launch our second polling question. Again, it's to make the point of the importance of your professional network. So we're going to do a little self-assessment here regarding the state of your professional network. And I think one of the biggest challenges that we all find is that our professional lives get so busy that we don't pay enough attention to that network. And just personal, I always used to have my goal if someone's not calling you and telling you about new opportunities, then your network may need a little bit of work there. Again, a few logistical notes for those of you on the call for CPE credits. You need to go ahead and answer this question. And again, we appreciate everyone's consideration in answering this polling question. We're just going to go ahead and leave this question up another 15 seconds or so, and then we'll get ourselves back to Moshe's great content. Moshe started to talk about this, but just to kind of tee up where we're going in our last polling question is kind of around the biggest concerns that anyone has walking in the door. So we'll be hitting that topic as well as we go along with Moshe. And in our final polling question, give this another few seconds. I'm going to go ahead and close this polling question, and I'm going to hand the floor back over to Moshe. Moshe?
Okay. A few more do's. We said that we'd get back to the point of meeting everyone. Greeting everyone, whoops. Greeting everyone is much more than meeting everyone. What do I mean? There's a major general in the Marines who's in charge of an elite military academy in Washington, D.C. Every year, 100 military officers are admitted to a one-year intensive course at this academy. Traditionally, there's a banquet to kick off the beginning of the year. And the protocol is that normally a junior officer would meet each couple, the officer and his wife, as they approach the major general who runs this institution. The officer would ask the name of the husband and wife and introduce them to the major general, who would then introduce them to his wife. This particular major general skipped that intermediary, and as each new officer approached with his wife, the major general addressed the officer by name, asked him something personal about himself, his kids, and introduced the couple to his wife. The officers were astounded, and they saw, oh, this general knows what's going on. Yeah, and he knows me, and he's concerned, he cares about me. The next day, the Major General explained how he knew it. He is not clairvoyant, but months before, all of the students had been requested to submit personal profile, personal information, personal interest, etc. This Major General made it his business to study all of that and to know it, feeling that the better he knows all of the people in his organization, the better he's able to lead, the better he's able to optimize whatever is the goal of his organization, what he's supposed to accomplish. I'm not saying that every person being hired has to go to that extreme. However, a person could take a lesson from that. And a person who's coming in and has X number of, let's say, direct reports and a few people who he's reporting to, why not learn the names, learn their roles, learn their responsibilities, learn the challenges that are facing them, some of which he should have done even before he came to interview, because that would help his interviewing. But at least now know that before he meets them, and it will engender some of that same response where the people realize, this guy knows what's going on, and he cares about me, and it enables this person to better run and optimize and achieve the goals that he's meant to achieve. Okay, that's about greeting everyone. Two more things to be aware of when you're coming on. A person doesn't want to come into a position of leadership and inherit any enemies. So one point is, look at the salaries of your reports as soon as you have the opportunity, and make sure everybody is up to where they should be. Nobody is behind in getting his recognition and his raise and his bonus, anything like that. If you do detect something like that, even if you can't rectify it immediately, at least let the person know you're aware of it and you try to take care of it. So again, you don't want to inherit any enemies. The budget. Become familiar as possible, as soon as possible, with the budget of your organization. First of all, you want to know if everything is in line as it should be, if things need to be realigned, and also familiarity with that will help everything that you learn within the company makes more sense, fitting it into that context. Now, that was starting out on the right foot. Once we've done that, we want to be sure to stay on the right foot. So a few points about staying on the right foot. We'll tell you the story about Heidi. Heidi was an extremely capable individual and had a pretty high function. She was in charge of 100 hotels in a very major hotel chain. And her role was to work with the general manager of each hotel to help improve performance of the hotel. So each day, she'd come to her office and look over the metrics of all 100 hotels and pick one of the hotels in the bottom and contact the general manager and try to work with him to see what could be done to improve performance. And frankly, she was burnt out. She was such a people person, but she wasn't exactly interacting and working and using her skills to help these managers improve their performance. Maybe that's why these guys were at the bottom of the list. They were defensive. They were not interested in working with her. She was so hungry for meaningful, productive human interaction. She got a job at CVS or something like that. That didn't help. Anyway, she found out about this idea, this approach, this methodology, if you will. Identify your strengths and make sure to put them to work. And she knew that her strength was not working with these guys on the bottom. Her strength was working with willing managers, with the guys on the top. Now, not to say that everybody's like that. There may have been others who were great with working with these guys on the bottom, wrestling, whatever, convincing them. It's a different strength. Her strength was working with the guys on the top. So she came into her office and forced herself, after looking over the whole list of 100 hotels, forced herself to focus at the top. And in looking at the top, she identified one hotel, had great metrics, but one of them was way out of line, way too low, uncharacteristic for somebody who's up at the top echelon over here. So she called that general manager, and he said, "Oh, thank you for calling. I'm so happy. So happy you contacted me. Why don't you come to my hotel next week, and we'll work together. I've been struggling trying to improve that metric. You'll help me, and we'll work together." And this was a turnaround for Heidi. It woke her up. It impassioned her. She was now fired up. She loved to come to work because this is what she did. She identified her strengths, and she put them to work. She structured her day in a way that allowed her to use her strengths and her passions. So this is something that a person could do. And once he's familiar, comfortable, adept at structuring his own day to enable him to put his strengths to work, he can enable his employees to do the same, his colleagues to do the same. And in some cases, perhaps some restructuring of roles within a department might better enable all the employees involved to have opportunity to be doing those things which enable them to put their strengths to work. One way of staying on the right foot. Another thing, maybe it's a harder thing to do, for some people at least, is feedback. Elicit and use honest feedback. Now, that's something that could be done only if you're ready to accept it. If your heart is open, you're not going to be crushed. But you realize feedback sometimes has negative connotations. It doesn't always have to mean criticism. Feedback can be positive feedback. Right? Jack, you know, that meeting invite that you sent out last week where you listed 4 bullet points of things that people should think about and be prepared to discuss. That was great. That was so helpful. The meeting ran so much more smoothly and more productively. We should do that all the time. Positive feedback. Right? So that's one reason not to be scared of it, because there's positive feedback. Another thing that could bolster the person's emotions and preparedness to accept feedback if he realized some of the benefits of feedback. It could be a reality check. Give you another simple, objective example. Let's say a person prepared a resume and he's looking for a job. Before he sends out that resume, he wants to make sure that it reflects what he intends that it should reflect. He shows it to his friends, he shows it to his business colleagues, shows it to his networking contacts. What do you see in this resume? What does it say to you? And get a reality check. Is their perception of the resume the same as mine? Sometimes opportunity might arise for a person within a company, and he's thinking, should he volunteer or accept that opportunity? He's looking at his skills against the needs for that opportunity, and if he has a mentor or a colleague with whom to discuss, does that friend see your skills the same way as you do? Is that an opportunity that's a good one for you? You get outside appraisal of your skills, and if this is a realistic goal for you. Also, that can help you to determine what are the appropriate action steps to take towards accomplishments, etc. So benefits of getting feedback, it can help you to improve in your performance in many ways. It could give you a better understanding of the needs of your internal or external clients. Yeah. Gene, the report that we sent you, was it enough detail? Was it too much detail? Was it organized in a way that was easy for you to find what you need? Can we reformat? Can we do additional analysis any way to make what you need to do easier for you? Yeah? So you realize that, but the benefits that could be had from feedback can make you more willing to be receptive to it. Now, if you happen to be fortunate to work in a company, in a culture, where people generally don't blame, so then the whole process of feedback becomes much easier. I've been fortunate to work in such companies, especially when I was in pensions. Pensions, very detail-oriented, very calculated, a lot of calculations. It's very heavily regulated. Regulations have to be adhered to, and it's done with an understanding that people make mistakes. And it's built into the system over there. Any work that we do gets reviewed. You write an email, the guy next to you looks it over. You write a report, manager looks it over. You do an actuarial valuation. There's a whole department of actuaries who sit and review and make sure everything is done right. And when there's a mistake, so you fix it. And there's no accusations, and there's no casting blame. People are human, and you make mistakes. In such an understanding environment, it's easier to give and to receive feedback. Now, some practical ideas about how to begin this process, because most people don't have feedback. Even, let's say, once a year in his job review and he writes some stuff on the HR forms, sometimes even if it does exist, it's just a formality and not taken very seriously. But for a person to seriously use the process of feedback to help him to improve his performance, start small. Start small. Identify maybe one or two people who are the right kind of people to work with. They work with you in a way where there's significant interaction, and they would be aware of anything that might, or some things perhaps, that might be relevant on which to give feedback. And the people are the personality, emotional strength, that they could give you candid feedback that's valid, that's objective, in a way that you're able to receive it. Now, if a person would go and say, you know, how am I doing? Ask a very general question. He's not likely to get back any valuable answers. Many times when I've given a presentation, if I give out a page asking for feedback, if the questions are general, write down 2 things that you liked about the presentation, 2 things you'd like to improve, I get very little that's significant. But if you ask specifics, right? How was the workload that I gave last week? I know I was under a lot of pressure. Ask for examples. Ask for examples about, you know, things that you did well, that was well appreciated, things that was not so appreciated. Example how it could be done in a better way. Ask for specifics. Ask for examples that makes it easier for the person to respond to you, and it makes it easier for you to understand and implement the suggestions that are being given. Now, here's a major point. You've worked and you've begun to get the process rolling now, getting some feedback. Don't nip it in the bud. Don't stop the flow at this point. What do I mean? Because when we hear negative feedback, our knee-jerk reaction is to justify ourselves. No, I didn't mean it like that. No. There's tablets that people give, that people take. They give to their kids to fend off getting a cold or flu or something. It's called defend and resist. Yeah, that's good if you're getting a cold, but it's not good if you're getting feedback. Listen to it. Don't defend and resist. Listen to the feedback. So put your hands over your mouth and open your ears and tell yourself, now is not the time to respond. If I must respond, so I'll do so in 10 minutes. I'll do so tomorrow. I'll do so after listening to what the person is finally agreeing to offer. So try to keep quiet. And if you overcome that desire to defend and resist, then maybe you'll be able to listen to the person, not thinking, how can I justify what I did? How can I answer it back? How can I knock off that criticism? But you'll be able to listen to understand what he's saying. And maybe he'll be right. Maybe there'll be value. Maybe it'll help me to improve my performance. Okay. And once this process is underway, repeat is needed. You can make it a regular thing, make it a weekly, make it twice a week, every 2 weeks. But if it's repeated, so then more trust could be built, more practice can enable people to do it better, give more significant input, and it can be something which is extremely valuable. Now, that was staying on the right foot. Sometimes we have to get onto the right foot. Difficult situations happens in life. There's difficult situations. And the point here is we don't need to necessarily give up and just accept the situation as difficult and there's nothing we can do about it. There is something that can be done about it in many cases. There's not time here to teach how and when and where and what to do, but just to illustrate that it can be done. And to give you sources here on the bottom, Stephen Covey takes you through step by step how to build the skills which enable these people whom we'll hear about to accomplish what they did. So the first situation here is the situation of a difficult boss. President of the university was a tremendous visionary and at the same time a very strong dictator. Everybody cowered under him and assumed the level of initiative, which is in our list over here, the lowest level possible. Wait to be told. Everybody was a gopher. Go for this and go for that. Yeah. Just quickly, if you want to look at this list, that's the lowest level of initiative. I mean, don't take initiative. Wait till you're told. That's what the president wanted, and that's where he drove brilliant people, professors, and ambitious people. That's where they were, except for Ben. Ben understood that he could take initiative, even in the face of a difficult situation. And we'll see what he did. He elevated himself, so to speak, empowered himself to the level of make a recommendation. Now he did it. He was savvy. And first of all, he made sure to be the best gopher that could be. And he brought all the gopher information that was requested of him. And before presenting it, he thought to himself, why is the president asking me for all this information? Must be he has a meeting with the board. They're probably not happy about the way that he's running security on this campus. So he did some analysis how securities run on other campuses. Based on his analysis, he had some suggestions that he put together. And then he came and brought his gopher data to the president. And when he finished giving the gopher data, he said, by the way, I did this analysis. And he presented the analysis. Then he presented his suggestions. And the president was speechless. Ben, it's brilliant that you addressed all the issues. I want you to make this presentation to the board, show them your analysis, and present your suggestions. Within 4 years, Ben was the second most influential person on their campus because he understood how to take initiative. First, to gain credibility and to gain trust and to think into what the other person needs. And he was able to accomplish and to change a difficult situation. Again, we're not giving you all the tools over here how to do it, but illustrating that it can be done. It's not hopeless. Far from that. One more example. Here's a situation where it was a difficult management. The 20 group was a group of the top insurance writers in an insurance company, the top general agents. Every quarter, they'd be flown off to some fancy place for some fancy training session. And they always complained about it because it was useless. It was so expensive. The last trip they had was to Hawaii, and there was bells and whistles and laser beams, and the time that they spent in training was basically useless for them. And they complained. By the way, complaining is I can't say if it's common, but it exists, and it's poison, right? In the case of Ben also, all the other staff would complain about the president. Oh, and he did this. Oh, that's nothing to hear what he did to me. Complaining, hours of complaining. It's poison. If nothing else, if you take no other initiative but this, run away from it. Run away from it. It's not healthy for you. Not healthy for you mentally, physically. It's not healthy for your tenure. It could affect even your life outside of work. It's not healthy. Run away from it. So here, they were complaining that the training is useless. So why don't you do something about it? What do you mean? It's not our department. There's a training department. They design the training programs. We don't. Yeah, but you are the influential people in the company. You have credibility. You're the biggest writers. the biggest general agents in the company. Okay. So they chose 2 representatives, and a meeting was arranged between their 2 representatives and the president and the CEO and the head of training. And the first thing these 2 representatives did was demonstrate to the executive management that we understand your position, we understand your goals, we understand your difficulties. And they explained it better than the management could explain it, what they tried to accomplish by putting on these fancy programs, and how much effort was put in and expense was put into doing that, and what difficulties there would be in many ways to implement any changes in the training programs, politically, culturally, pragmatically, technically, all different difficulties. They explained it all until the executives felt fully understood, that their issues were fully and well understood. And interesting, when they felt fully understood, then they felt that they were interested to hear, do you have any suggestions on how to address these serious challenges? They did realize that there were shortcomings and issues with the training programs that they were providing. So maybe these people who so well understand our goals and our difficulties, maybe they had some suggestions on how to address these challenges and how to improve. And the 2 representatives had indeed done their homework, and they presented their suggestions, which did address all the challenges in practical ways. And their recommendation was to implement these suggestions on a small scale with a pilot program. Well, the executives were so taken, so appreciative, they so valued and so liked the recommendations that they implemented them immediately across the country. So taking initiative, being savvy, understanding the other side's position, and showing them that you understand it, empathizing with them, you engender trust that enables you to move forward. You can become now willing partners in working together towards a solution that is good for everybody. Having achieved this success, the 20 group turned their focus on what's the next challenge in the company that we can address. You have to remember to focus on those things that are within those areas that you can influence. But as your credibility grows, as the trust in you grows, as your skills at going about this grow, so the areas which you can influence also grow. Okay, up to the takeaways slide to review some of the main points that we've touched on today, that for successful onboarding and advancement, continue to maintain and build out your network. Don't fix the wrong things. Do accomplish, meet these people, engage with the people, identify and apply your skills and your staff skills, and prepare yourself to accept feedback and build a process to receive feedback and to give feedback, and realize that you could take initiative to influence difficult situations. Thank you for coming, for engaging, and I'd like to take this opportunity. It's the end of a whole year's worth of presentations on career topics. I'd like to thank you, Ernie, and your colleagues at Performative for making these hours and hours of content, of insights and actionable strategies available to untold number of finance professionals, and thank you for providing me the opportunity to be part of it.
Oh, it's been our pleasure, Moshe. You always deliver great content. We've gotten great feedback, so we appreciate that as well. Before we start the Q&A session, I'm going to go ahead and launch our last polling question, which hopefully may give us some interesting conversation for fodder as regarding, when you first go into a job, sometimes there's always some consternation there, and to get some insight on what people's thoughts are. In order to take full advantage of our time, I'm just going to go ahead and start the Q&A session and let Moshe respond to this. I think the last topic that you hit is near and dear to, I know it's near and dear to my heart and other folks, and it's you mentioned about taking initiative to improve difficult situations, and I think most people, if it's kind of a fight or flight, they want to do the flight. So obviously it's not easy to accomplish what you've told us about how these people, and it takes great self-understanding and how you develop interpersonal skills. Can you just give us a little bit more, just to bring it to a point of how we can learn the skills that might enable us to take these initiatives and really engage these difficult situations instead of running away from them?
Okay, it's a great question, Ernie. I think a good place to start, I would venture to say the best place to start, maybe some people will differ, but definitely a good place to start is reading Stephen Covey's text, which is cited on the slides, and actually doing the exercises in the course of the text. He says stop and think and write down a few ideas. Do the exercises that he suggests. Furthermore, he published a small book full of exercises which parallels the methodology that he lays out in the text, and it's full of exercises to help you to understand and apply the concepts that he builds. And with that, it needs real introspection, serious thought, contemplation, and it needs a lot of practice. Like anything, right? It's a skill. Any skill that you acquire, you start to play tennis, or you're learning how to program a computer. It's a skill. It needs practice, and it improves with practice. So don't go read a few pages and then walk in like the stories that you heard over here to executive management. It's premature. Start in a safe environment. Start with somebody maybe in your family, with a friend, with a trusted business associate. Start on a small scale, and as you see the skills sinking in, you understand them, becoming more confident with them, build, right? Well, you're weightlifting. You lift 10 pounds, then you lift 15, then 20. Build the skills, and be savvy. Don't go out into risky environment until you're ready to navigate it.
Okay, great, thank you. Someone's asking a question around how to be proactive and just some practical tips. As you mentioned before, a lot of times when someone is in a job, they're keeping and maintaining their professional network somehow falls to the bottom of their list on things they need to do because they get so wrapped up in their jobs. You have some ideas on how people can really stay on top of that and not wait until they are in transition and really need that network to be supercharged in order for that to work for them.
Yeah, I find for myself personally that making something part of the schedule, part of the day, helps. Otherwise, I would never get to it. Let's say exercise, right? So if I come up the stairs on the way to the office, so then it happens. I don't have to wait and take time. So similarly, if you build it in as part of your schedule at a certain point in the day, right when you start, right when you close down, and you want to do it once a week, twice a week, but figure out what's the minimum amount that you want to start with, and stick to it. Once it's going, it's in place, you see that starting is really the hard part, then it'll be a little easier to add to it. You do 2 people instead of 1. Also, if you think of strategies that are very simple to do, such as, as you look at emails and you see something, have in mind who among my networking contacts might be interested in this link that I just came across to a webinar, in this article, and right there on the spot, send it off to him. So if you have the contact information readily at hand in an email, in a text, in whatever, then it makes it that much easier. There's a less barrier to sending it out because it's easy to keep in touch. So think of things like that will reduce the barriers to being in touch. That it doesn't take much initiative. You just take something that you came across and send it out, and you have the contact information ready. Those are a few tips.
Okay, great. We have another question, which is probably going to be good for you to hopefully offer us some tips. Someone has asked, it's kind of conveying a situation where they've approached their boss for feedback, and a lot of times the boss seems too busy or is putting out fires. So how do you manage not being pestering to your boss and actually soliciting feedback that can make you more productive and more valuable?
Great question. a few points. One is, just like we said over here, that a person wants to convey to himself what the benefits will be for feedback in order to bring himself to be eager. Convey to the boss how his involvement, his feedback can be beneficial to you, enable you to work better, improve your performance. And then ask the boss to schedule a time. Right now he's very busy. Eventually he has to have some time to be able to schedule a time. When can we sit down? But let him understand when you're asking for that schedule, for that time to be scheduled, that this is the return that you're expecting on that time. Not just to sit there and be a nuisance, but it's sincere, valuable input that you need from him in order to be able to return more value, do your job better, and it may be something which enables him to do his job better. Maybe it'll even reduce some of the pull on him by changing the way something's done, by taking it on to yourself. Let him see what benefits he will have and you will have from this meeting that'll impel him to be willing to schedule it. And prepare, do your homework before that meeting. Think about the specific things that you want to ask him and anticipate perhaps what benefits you expect to be had from the meeting, so you're not starting out cold. You can direct that meeting, because don't expect him to lead the meeting. You asked for the meeting. You have to structure it, so do your homework to get the most value possible from that meeting once it does occur.
Okay, great. Thank you. We're going to have time for just a few more questions, and if we have any other ones, we'll circle back with Moshe and get those questions addressed. And I've got a couple of questions here. Moshe, these are tough ones, but I know you can handle them. One of them is around someone might be in a male-dominated or female-dominated industry and trying to build their networks if they are the gender that is in the minority. Do you have any advice for kind of general neutral networking, or how to maybe approach some of those biases that just exist in society?
Kind of a side comment. I'm not sure that it applies in this case, but there are certain things that you cannot overcome. Right? If you're in a hiring situation and they didn't meet their minimum of so many of these kind of people, those kind of people that they have to hire, so they can't consider your candidacy, that's maybe not something that could be overcome. So you have to keep that in mind. You have to pick your battles and know where you could accomplish and where you can't. Okay, that's may or may not be relevant over here. Over here, I don't know. Ernie, what do you say? I punt.
Yeah, no, I like I said, I mean that was a kind of a tough one, and I think it might come down to, you know, just as Moshe mentioned throughout the webinar, if people can see you as valuable, if you can find ways to help improve or to help your female or male counterparts be more productive, I think that would be helpful. And then another thing would be if you see that there's activities and things that they engage in, you might be able to show your expertise in those areas and be included in those areas. But it's kind of finding a way to build that bridge. Maybe it's a work-related item, and maybe it's things that are discussed at work. So I think just trying to build those bridges might be helpful.
Okay, Ernie, I'm just summarizing really what you said. You gave me the idea that get the focus off of male-female and put the focus on the value.
Right, absolutely. Okay, we're going to take one more quick question. We're running short on time, but I love this question, and I've been in this situation before, so I think, Moshe, you might have some good insight here. Any suggestions when you come in as the new guy, and then you have to interact with the inside professional who thought they were going to get the job and just didn't get the job?
Yeah. I just dealt with that live with a client, and what I told him was, you are not the adversary of that person. You're not the one deciding who's getting the position. Somebody above both of you is. So make sure that that's clear and felt by the other person. You're not an adversary. To the greatest extent that you can, you're working together, you're friends, you're in the same organization, And whatever you could do to share ideas, share resources, share information, and relate to him as a peer, as a comrade, as a colleague that could help. And right, the axe is not in your hand, it's in somebody else's, and you guys are together working on a team to try to get a goal achieved.
Okay, great. Thank you. With that, we're going to go ahead and close the Q&A session. Thanks to Moshe for his time and insight, not only today, but throughout this webinar series. It's been fantastic, Moshe. We sincerely appreciate that. If you'd like us to connect you directly with Moshe, please indicate that in the survey we'll ask you to take as soon as we close the webinar. Moshe is clearly a leader in his field and an excellent source of information on today's topics and on your career advancement management. Again, CPE credits. If you have any CPE-related questions, please email Chris Brower at performative.com. Just have a quick word about Performatech. We are going to have our full-day conference on leveraging technology across the enterprise, and I think that's very valuable in today's environment. You're always challenged to do more with less, and we think this is a great opportunity to, under one day, under one roof, understand how technology can help you improve your job. With that, I would like to thank the audience for your valuable time and wish everyone to have a great weekend. We look forward to seeing you on performative.com and at our events. Thank you very much.